Right, we got next? Come on, let's get the walk in. The cheering, the love, the fantastic Professor Callum Hill. Good evening. My name's Professor Callum Hill. I work at the Forest Products Research Institute at Edinburgh Napier University. Why are they leaving? It's not a good start. I work at the Forest Products Research Institute and I work with timber. I do research into timber. Timber is very interesting stuff. You can make all sorts. Somebody else is leaving. You can make all sorts of things out of wood. You can make furniture out of wood. You can make wooden legs out of wood, and you can make paper out of wood. And I'm going to talk tonight about the history of paper making. The word paper comes from the word papyrus. It was the ancient Egyptians that invented papyrus, and what they used to do is get reeds that are grown by the banks of the Nile, and they would get these reeds and they'd press them together when they were wet, and they'd rub them with stones to make the surface smooth. And when they dried out, they ended up with papyrus. And the trouble with it was absolutely useless toilet paper, complete waste of time. So they had to invent writing. And the first thing that was written ever was owl, water, jackal, eye, which says, now wash your hands, please. So we move on a bit, we go to 100 AD, it's the Chinese, it's always the Chinese, isn't it? They've invented everything first. And they invented what we recognise as paper today. Now, the reason that they couldn't use papyrus as toilet paper is that you can't fold it, basically. It's very crumbly. So this is proper paper, and they found it as very useful stuff. And one of the things that they actually used it for was money. They invented paper money because they used to carry around huge amounts of copper with them as currency, which is not very practical. So they thought, well, we'll invent this idea of a note that says, I've got all this copper, I've got it back at home, and if you want it, well, you can come and get it, basically. And then, of course, the inevitable happened. There was a banking crisis, so the Chinese thought of that first. And there was hyperinflation. And it was around about that time that they found that actually you could wipe your bottom with paper. And that was 600 AD, so it took them 500 years to find that one out, so that's not as clever as you might think. So, in those days, I mean, things weren't as sophisticated as they are now. There was only one type of toilet paper, banknotes in that case. And these days we don't just have to use banknotes, we have a huge amount of choice. And I did an in-depth research study into this so I could understand what paper, how much different types of paper there were. And I went on the Andrex website, and once I kind of fought through the layers of puppies, I never quite understood the association between puppies and toilet paper. Yeah, there's lots of different types of toilet paper. If you go on the Andrex website, it says it's got lots of different types of toilet paper to meet all your needs. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but I thought there was only one need for toilet paper. There's all different kinds on there, and it has all sorts of words that actually don't really make you think about going to the toilet at all. And they have words like luxurious, a luxurious feeling and this sort of thing. And as I was going through, I came across a very interesting product here, which is called Andrex Touch of Luxury. And it said here, Touch of Luxury is enriched with the silky softness of sheer butter. The enriched shoots, scented inner core, and luxurious dark brown packaging are designed to give you a fabulous feeling. Terms and conditions apply. That sounded quite good. I was a bit depressed the other day, so I knocked out and bought a pack. And it did cheer me up, actually. I felt a lot better. So I do recommend a touch of luxury. Now, the reason I went on the Andrex website was not to look up all the different kinds of toilet paper, it was to find out what the environmental impact is, because one of the things I do, I study things like carbon footprints. I'm very interested in the environmental impact of things that we do. So I was looking up the carbon footprint of toilet paper, and I found out that the luxurious, soft stuff, the embodied carbon dioxide impacts of that's the carbon dioxide emissions that's associated with producing the paper, packaging it, transporting it, this sort of thing. 1.8 grams of carbon dioxide equivalents per sheet of paper, that's GWP 100, okay? 1.8 grams. So if you want to know what the environmental impact of going to the laboratory is, you need to do a calculation based on the number of sheets that you use, obviously. So my guess is that probably 90% of you here probably go to the lavatory. And there's one or two of you, I can see in the audience, that I think are probably know the touch of luxury. That may not be the same thing. If you do the calculation, let's assume 5 sheets per wipe. Would everyone agree 5 sheets per wipe is reasonable? I was actually told off for using so many last time, but I think 5, I think that's safe, okay? 5 sheets per wipe, 5 wipes per sitting, that's 25 sheets of paper. Multiply that by 1.8 grams. That works out at 225 Google searches. Which I think that's quite a lot, actually. A lot of Google searches. The reason for that is every time you do a Google search, that uses energy. Every time you use the internet, obviously energy gets used. So it's 225. I'll get my own figures here. Yeah, so because I had to do all this research on the internet, I can't go to the lavatory for 2 days now, okay? So, anyway, so that's the impact if you use Touch of Luxury, around about 225 Google searches. But the other thing is that can happen and does happen is that you might actually let rip when you're sitting there. And farts do contain global warming gases. Farts contain carbon dioxide, that's a known greenhouse gas. So I was wondering what the environmental impact of that is. So I looked that up, so that's another day I can't go to the lavatory now. And it turns out that we produce half a litre of fart gas every day, which doesn't actually sound like very much to me. Half a litre, and about 20% of that is carbon dioxide, about 20%. 20% by volume, 20% not mass. I could see you wondering if he means mass or volume. By 20% by volume, and if you do the calculation for that, it's about half a litre, 20% by volume. That works out at about 1.5 Google searches. But 1/3 of you in the audience, I can't see who you are at the moment, but I might be able to see later on. You fart methane, and you can tell if you fart methane because if you set light to your fart, and I don't recommend you do that, it burns with a blue flame. So if you're a methane farter, you can join something called the Royal Order of the Blue Flame. This is true, you can look this up. Royal Order of the Blue Flame, and I don't know what the joining ceremony looks like, but it would have been a nice start to the Olympics. I thought, they could have done, but they didn't actually take my suggestion. The Royal Order of the Blue Flame. So you produce methane. Methane's a more powerful global warming gas than carbon dioxide. If you do the calculation there, it's about 8 Google searches if you're a methane emitter. And did you know that if both your parents are methane emitting parents, you have a 95% probability also? So you could have a nice little test if you want to do a parental test or something. It's cheaper than DNA. So yes. Now the kind of bugs that you have inside you that they don't like oxygen. Okay, they're anaerobic. They used to rule the planet at one time, when long time ago, before photosynthesis, before oxygen came, and the bugs had to retreat inside us. So that means that the primordial atmosphere of the Earth actually smelt of farts. It's not actually funny, is it, really? But you can't really imagine what that would have been like, but you can get a very good idea if you travel on the Virgin Voyages on the West Coast Main Line. Thank you very much.
Let's hear for Professor Callum Hill.